Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here, discussing some more Warhammer combat cards. And having played the game for a little over 2 years now, I thought it'd be as good a time as ever to talk about some of the good and bad aspects of the game, as well as the progress that has been made since I first started playing. So let's get right into it, starting with what I enjoy about the game. First of all, the Warhammer 40k theme is the most important thing. This game would not exist without the 40k brand, and having collected the miniatures and played the tabletop game way back in the day, it brings back a lot of good memories. I'm sure a lot of people who play the game are familiar with the tabletop. And going along with that, they do use images of the actual miniatures in this game. And there are a lot of other Warhammer digital Warhammer games on the market, but this one stands out as being one of the few that uses the actual models painted to perfection. And I haven't actually bought miniatures in a very long time, but I do enjoy seeing the new releases by Games Workshop, and having them all in this game sorted by faction is really great to see. Now moving on to the gameplay, this is a very simple game that is easy to pick up. I think anyone could really pick up and play it, and that is not the case for a lot of other games out there. I think I played the Age of Sigmar game for a little bit, but I found it too complex and just counterintuitive. This one is just much more simple and easy to learn. And also, being a more casual turn-based card game, it's not too intensive, not too involved, so you can be, like watching TV and playing the game at the same time. The game now has a pretty massive amount of cards because they've been releasing new cards every single week, and so they have a really good representation of the models from the tabletop game. And I do like variety, so that is a good thing in my book. And in addition to the new cards and new campaigns each week, the developers have worked really hard to add additional features and just lots of other updates to the game. I'll be getting into the specifics of that later on in this video, but they also have been pretty good about communicating what features are coming to the game through the developer blog. So that has been a really nice thing to see as well. Now the game has a forum where players can create threads talking about whatever they want, discussing the game. And I don't actually use the forum very much anymore. I used it more when I was first starting out. I think it's good for newer players just to be able to talk about ideas or strategies. The reason I don't really use the forum so much these days is that a lot of it's kind of irrelevant to me, I guess. I see a lot of threads being made about the exact same topic over and over again, and a lot of people just complaining about the issues with the game. The Discord is a much better way to communicate, I think. So since discovering Discord, that's what I've been using. The developers have a bigger presence there. You can actually talk to them directly, and it's just easier to share ideas in an actual conversation instead of posting in the forum. So Discord, definitely a very good resource if you're playing this game. And then finally, the absence of ads is something I've really appreciated. Unfortunately, they are actually going to introduce ads to the game. That's one of the upcoming things. Hopefully they're not going to be too intrusive, because I don't know about you, but I personally do not like seeing irrelevant ads popping up in my game all the time. It's one of the things that plagues most mobile games these days, so hopefully that doesn't become an issue. Now moving on to the not so good stuff about Warhammer combat cards. And there are quite a few issues, many which have existed since the game was first released and have not really been addressed. But first of all, the visuals are not exactly a selling point of the game. Now, other than the models. The models of course look amazing, but it being kind of a lower budget game, it doesn't really have the visual effects that can compare to a lot of other games on the market. And one of the things that really bothers me, I mean it's not that huge of an issue, is the ranged attack animation. It looks like a Space Marine bolter firing. Whether it's a Tyranid, Tau, Necrons, Eldar, they all are firing Space Marine bolters. It looks ridiculous. Now, I played the game long enough that I've gotten used to it, but, you know, it's just one of those little things that kind of bothers me. Now, I understand that they probably won't change it because it's just more visually clear if everything looks the same. And at least they've introduced some new visuals with like Barrage and Sonic Blast. Those look great, but yeah, overall the VFX are not exactly amazing. Now, matchmaking is an issue that has been present from the start. I think they have slightly improved it, but is still an issue, especially in casual mode, and especially for lower ranking players. I think maybe for new players, the first few levels might be okay, but then you suddenly find yourself being matched against opponents that are much, much stronger, that are impossible to beat, and it can be a very frustrating experience. And, you know, eventually, if you persist and play the game long enough, you'll get to a point where it sort of evens out and it's a little more fair, but for lower ranking players, I think it's still a big issue. Now, the upgrade system in here requires you to get copies of cards and coins to upgrade those cards so that they become more powerful. And it works. I mean, it's okay, I guess. At the beginning, it can be harder to get the copies of cards. You know, it takes just a lot of time to get the cards from the packs, but then later on you find that you don't have enough coins to upgrade your cards. So for me personally, at this point, I think I have about 250 different cards in my collection that could be upgraded, but cannot be upgraded because I just do not have the coins. And I guess that's the way it's supposed to work, but it just seems a little bit weird to me. And I wonder if there's just a better way that they could, you know, manage that. Now, the campaigns, they do have new campaigns every week, but one issue I have with the campaigns is that they tend to be very long, very demanding in terms of time. You know, you get a bunch of campaign energy and you're kind of expected to use that energy, and it requires a huge time commitment. And for me, recently, I've been finding that I get pretty bored with the campaign. It just gets very repetitive, you know, after like day 2. So by the time I'm done, the only reason that I'm playing at that point is simply to get the rewards. And I know maybe I'm speaking too idealistically, but I feel like it'd be better if I played the game because I was actually enjoying it rather than simply to get a higher score than other players and unlock slightly better rewards. Now, moving on to the game speed, this is a pretty big issue that a lot of players have had with the game, is that the game is just too slow and there's only one game speed. There's no way to speed up, you know, the animations or anything. So you just have to wait for all those animations to go off. And since they've introduced a lot of new animations for traits and stuff into the game, it does kind of slow the overall game down. So it is something that I'd like to see. I think doubling the speed, it might be a little bit too much, but, you know, at least increasing it by a little bit more so that, you know, players who know what's going to happen before it happens can just get through the matches a little bit more quickly. It would be a really nice feature to have. Next up, lag and connection issues have plagued this game from the beginning and have not really been getting better. In fact, recently it seems to be getting worse. It can take a really long time for things to load, or when you're trying to zoom in on a card, zoom out, or just get to different parts of the menu. There's a whole lot of lag there. Sometimes in the game itself, it takes a lot of time for cards to make their attacks. So, yeah, that is a pretty big issue here. And sometimes you get disconnected from your game too, which is always frustrating. And the other thing is bugs. This game is full of bugs. And, I mean, this is separate from the lag and connection issues. We're talking about, like, visual bugs. It seems like a lot of times when they make an update to the game, there's something wrong with, you know, either like a typo on the card or them displaying the wrong reward for a campaign. You know, there've been all kinds of weird bugs. Sometimes even bugs that affect the gameplay, like a certain Warlord special rule not working correctly. So I've gotten used to it, but it's still definitely a big issue with the game. And finally, with the amount of cards in the game, it would be very nice if there was a way to sort them or have some sort of card filter. Now, I've heard that that is something that they are going to add to the game in the near future, so that's good to see. But up until now, there's not been anything like that in the collection. So, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about the progress that the game has made over the past 2 years. Now, these are all features that have been added to the game that did not exist when I first started playing. And they aren't really in any particular order, but just going through them. Now, first of all, they actually added a few new music tracks, one for each faction. And in the game, and when I first started the game, there was only 2 different tracks for the music when you're playing the battles. So I think they did a really nice job on the music. I personally enjoy it quite a bit. Next up, new animations. They've added a whole lot of animations for Warlord's special rules as well as traits, and they do look pretty good. I personally am a big fan of those new visual effects. I think they add a little more spice to the game. And next up, new traits. Now, when I first started the game, there was only a handful of traits, and I'm pretty sure about half the cards in the game had either Furious Charge or Precision Shot. So they have greatly diversified the traits added. I think there are now about 20 traits in the game. So added a lot more variety and given a lot of cards different roles. So the traits have played a huge part in the game, and it's good that they expanded that from where it began. And next up, new Warlords. Of course, they add new cards every week, but Warlords in particular really change up the game, add a lot more variety, and I think some of my favorite Warlords are the newer ones that have been released more recently that were not in the game when it first started. So always exciting to see new Warlords get released. And next up, balance changes. The game has gone through balance changes it seems about once every couple months, where they change up the stats of the cards or sometimes the traits, just to get cards that weren't performing very well up onto the same tier as other ones. So, and again, in the developer blog, they list out all those changes. So, big fan of those changes. And next up, this is something that actually was released a really long time ago, but when I first started, there was actually no ranked mode. There was only casual mode and campaigns. So they released ranked and then added a whole new reward structure with ranked, so of course that was a vast improvement. Now nobody plays casual, unless you have to. Next up, clans. The clan tab was actually there from the very beginning, but there was just a little sign that said, coming soon, and it stayed there for I don't know how long it was, maybe a year or so before the clans were finally released. And you can't really do a whole lot within the clans, but hopefully they'll be adding more features to that in the future. It's better than not having any clans at all, though, at least. One of the things you can do within clans is the PvP mode, play against other players live. So that adds a little different dynamic to the game. It's not really something that I consider that much of an improvement, but it does allow you to play the game in a slightly different way than when just playing against the AI. Next up, along also with the clans, the dedications. This is a really big improvement that helps you get more of the cards that you want. Your clan chooses a dedication, and you get more of those cards from your card packs that you open up every day. So dedications was a really great improvement to collecting the cards. And next up, the card shop. This is a fairly recent change. I found that I don't really often see cards that I want in the card shop, but at least every so often there will be a card in there that pops up that is worth purchasing. You do have to spend coins on it, which is kind of the downside, because coins are such a valuable resource for upgrading your cards. Spending them in the card shop, it really has to be a card that you really want. But still, it's better than not having that card shop at all, I think. They did make a permanent 20% discount to the cost of upgrading your cards in coins. So that was good to see again, because for people who've been playing a long time, you just don't have the coins to upgrade cards. So it's slightly easier to upgrade those cards now than it used to be. Now they've had a number of limited time events, and those have often involved free giveaways, like free packs in the shop that are available for everyone. They've also done some community events, which people could take part in outside of the game, and sometimes win, copies of Eisenhorn or other things. So those are always nice to see. They've also more recently started introducing a special type of campaign with modifiers. They've termed these explorations, and they also have much better rewards than normal campaigns. So I personally enjoyed those explorations quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of those in the future. The campaign energy recharge rate, they also increased. So it used to be 90 minutes per energy. That was the time it takes to get another energy for the campaign. They increased that to 2 hours, so that means less time overall that you have to spend in the campaigns, which is an improvement. I still think there is a better system than using campaign energy. Recently with the explorations, they've been using the strike system, and I personally like that a little bit more, but I think a lot of people don't really want to see that added to regular campaigns. So. Also, this is a minor change, but there are actually more Warlord packs in the shop with each campaign than there used to be. It used to be only one pack, so you could only get just one pack with a guaranteed Warlord. Now there are always 3 options, 3 different Warlords available in the shop. So it just makes it easier to get your hands on the Warlord that you want or need. Next up, this is another minor change, but they added guaranteed legendaries and epics to the end of season ranked rewards, just to add a little bit more of a satisfying reward. In the past, sometimes you'd open up that giant box of rewards after the end of the season, after a month of playing, and you don't get a single legendary, and it's kind of just like, what was all that effort for? Now at least the rewards are slightly better. Also, this is actually a very major change, the upgrade path rework, where it used to be that you had to upgrade common cards to level 5 before they unlocked their very first trait. And rare cards, I think it was maybe level 4 or 3, but they changed that, so now commons and rares unlock their trait at level 2. Legendaries and epics already have their traits unlocked at level 1. It just made traits available much earlier, so it makes it a more important part of the game for newer players. And it also makes newer cards just more, I think, useful and relevant. So that was a very good change. And then finally, another minor change for the highest ranking players. They added honor ranks, which add additional rewards for those who have already reached the maximum rank of, I believe it is 80 or 81. So yeah. Looking at this list, they have added quite a few new improvements, features into the game over the past 2 years. They've definitely done a great job of that, and also been good about communicating all of these changes. But of course, there are still a lot of issues with the game and places that could see improvement. So I'm sure I missed a few things, so let me know in the comments what you think, whether it's something you enjoy about the game or what got you into the game, or something that you find that bothers you about the game, something that you would like to see changed. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.